By way of introduction, my name is Stacie Brass, and I am the managing director here at Accel Wealth Management, and been fortunate to be in this industry for a little over 30 years. So I have been at this a day or two, and talking about a topic this morning, beneficiary designations, which in and of itself might not sound like the most exciting part of financial planning, but yet hopefully by the end of our time together this morning, you will see why that is not necessarily the case and absolutely something that warrants your attention. So by way of agenda, we're going to talk about why it matters, what it is, how it fits into your financial plan, why it is so important, what to do in the event you have life changes, and we all do. Some common pitfalls and mistakes to avoid. I'm going to give you a case study example, and then we'll talk about the importance of taking action and wrap up with any final thoughts. I'm going to move this out of the way.
Okay. And before you get started, if anyone has any questions during this, please
Yeah.
use the Q&A feature, and we will make sure we answer those questions at the end.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you, Julie. So why is it important? Well, first of all, estate planning is really what we're talking about. And estate planning is not just for wealthy. It is for anyone who cares about what happens to their money, their family, and their future. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and guess that's everybody on this call. Beneficiary designations are important because they do take legal priority and they will override your will. They can be used as a tool to avoid probate and avoid probate expense, which means the assets go straight to your beneficiaries, saving you time and money. And then finally, just financial and emotional consequences. Mistakes can cause disputes, delays, or unintended consequences. I can give you a real life example here. We manage a good number of 401k plans. We had a 401k participant pass away, had not left clear beneficiary instructions, had a family dispute between a brother and a child as to who should inherit the money. And they did not want to open the estate, and the money is still sitting in his 401k, and he's been deceased for 15 years. So it really is just and it's, $100,000. It's not an insignificant amount of money. So it just is a really, really unfortunate circumstance that very easily could have been avoided. There are three types of beneficiaries. Individuals, which is the most common. If you're married, you name your spouse as your primary. Maybe if you have adult children, your adult children are your contingent beneficiaries. The second, probably most common designation is a trust. Maybe you have minor children or you have a child with special needs, and so you're going to set up a trust as a beneficiary to manage in those instances. And then finally is a charity. Maybe not all that common, but if you have charitable intention, charities can be a fantastic beneficiary designation because you can avoid the taxation of otherwise taxable benefits. So something to think about if you're in that situation. So what is a beneficiary designation? Well, it defines the person or entity who is supposed to receive your assets upon your death. And it applies to things like retirement accounts, 401ks, IRAs, life insurance, and in a slightly different form with bank accounts and annuities. They don't, and brokerage investment accounts. They don't necessarily have a beneficiary designation, but you can have what's called a payment on death, a POD, which applies to bank accounts, or a transfer on death, which applies to investments, taxable accounts, things like that. As I mentioned, why are they unique? It bypasses your will, goes directly to the named individual, and often immediate and avoids probate expense. It is part of a financial plan, and this is just sort of general, but we do want you to think about financial planning is more than just saving and investing. Hopefully, you're doing that. Hopefully, you're putting some money in the bank and you're saving in your retirement account and you're managing your investments along the way. But we also want you thinking about your risk management, making sure you have adequate insurance in place. Your estate planning, we're talking about that today. Tax strategies. What are other things you should be thinking about? The government is in the process of debating tax legislation right now, so you're going to be hearing a lot about taxes in the next few months. And then finally, legacy planning. None of us like to think about our mortality and eventually leaving this earth, but it's going to happen, right? None of us are getting out of here alive. So you can be deliberate about what you want that legacy to look like. Beneficiary designations are simple, but they are an essential part of your estate and legacy plan. Why is it important? Well, it's important because without it, your funds may go to your estate, which is okay, but that's going to likely lead to delays, taxes, and court decisions that you are going to most definitely add expense that probably could have been avoided. Probate may be required, which is where an attorney gets involved to settle your estate, and they can be costly. Attorneys generally charge 1.5 to 2% of the assets, which is fine. They're doing work, they're earning their keep for that, but it can be expensive. And your loved ones are going to be faced with unexpected emotional and financial burdens that again could have been avoided. Your life is going to change. Your plan should too. If you get married or you get divorced, you have children, you adopt children, maybe you have grandchildren. You have a previously named beneficiary who has passed away. We're going to talk about what can happen in that instance here in a minute. Or you just simply have a major financial or life change. All of those things should be triggers for you to review your financial plan, certainly, and as part of that, your beneficiary designation. A financial plan is very much a living document. It is not a one and done, right? I did a financial plan. I never have to think about it again. You want to keep it aligned with your life as your life evolves. What are some common mistakes that we want to avoid? Well, number one, not naming a beneficiary at all. Again, the money's going to go to your estate. It will probably ultimately get to your people, but it's going to be a lot more time consuming and certainly a lot more expensive than it could have been. Naming only one person and no contingent. That can also be a problem if maybe your one person predeceases you and there's, again, no instructions on file beyond that. Outdated beneficiaries, blank or incorrect forms. I've spent a lot of my career in the 401k space, helping employees get enrolled in their benefit plans. Beneficiary forms often don't get completed because they maybe don't have social security numbers for their beneficiaries. Some vendors require them, some don't. They maybe don't have current address, might not recall a birth date. So if you've got a benefit event coming up, if you've got open enrollment, make sure you have all that information. Maybe now with phones, keep it all in a document somewhere that's safe and secure on your phone. So when it comes time to fill out that information, you've got it readily available at your fingertips. Naming minor children as beneficiaries. Most of the time, minor children cannot inherit assets or property directly, so the court is going to appoint a guardian. Maybe that's going to be fine, but maybe it isn't, or a custodian. Maybe that isn't the person or persons that you would want to have in charge. So we recommend that you dictate who that guardian and who that custodian is going to be. They can be different. The guardian is going to be the person that cares for your minor children. If God forbid something happens to you as a parent, the custodian would be somebody that would manage the trust. Maybe you've got children from a previous marriage and a spouse, and you want to provide for both of them. Can absolutely be done. But again, you want to make sure that beneficiary designation is clear. If you have children with special needs, I have a daughter with special needs, and I know from my own planning, I don't want Lindsay to inherit money directly because it will affect her other benefits. So we have a special needs trust in place for Lindsay. So if you're in that situation, you potentially don't want to name that individual directly. Or if maybe you have a relative with special needs and you think I'm going to be kind and I'm going to leave some additional support for this child, you may be creating unintended consequences with their other benefits. And then finally, this is one that doesn't get talked about very often, but it's important. There's two different ways to designate beneficiaries, a per stirpes or a per capita, and they're very different in what happens. So I want to talk about that for a minute. In the event, okay, so let's use two examples. We've got Allison, who's our individual here, and under a per stirpes designation, she names two beneficiaries. She names Ben and Frank, her two brothers, let's say, in this example, and they're each entitled to 50%. And if Ben were to decease under a per stirpes allocation, his 50% would go, it's a per branch, family branch designation versus a per head designation. So Ben's half would continue to go on through his side of the family tree to his children, Candace and Danny, again, example, where they would each ultimately end up with a quarter, a half of Ben's half. Under a per capita designation, again, Allison names her two brothers, Ben and Frank. Ben predeceases Allison. If she doesn't make any changes under a per capita, 100% of her account is going to Frank. Now, maybe that's fine. Maybe that was Allison's intent, but oftentimes it isn't, and we have seen this happen. And so per capita is often the default for 401ks, IRAs. So you want to make sure you understand what the default is. If this is your situation or it becomes your situation, oftentimes you might have to check a box if you want a per stirpes allocation. So it doesn't get talked about a lot, but if you think about, it's a pretty big difference here if you're, Ben's kids, your niece and nephew in this example. Let's talk about a case study. So the musician, Prince, loved him. I'm an 80s girl, right? Big Prince fan. Prince died in 2016. He was only 57, which I am knocking on the door of. So that just seems awfully young to me. He had no recorded will or beneficiary designations. He had a substantial estate valued at somewhere between 150 and 300 million. It did include retirement accounts and other financial assets. His estate went into probate and took over 6 years to resolve. There were multiple individuals that came forward claiming to be heirs, including previously unknown half siblings. So stop and think about that one for a minute. If you are a sibling that did not know you had half siblings, and they spent tens of millions of dollars on attorney fees and court costs, and the family did not receive a dime or any distributions until 2022. Extreme example, but knock some zeros off of this, and this would be the situation for anybody potentially, if regardless of the size of your estate. So, and again, think about someone like Prince who had probably access to unlimited resources in attorney and financial advisors, but just never took the time to do it. Maybe because he had some of these difficult things to work through that it was easier not to think about or talk about. But if you don't do it, you're just leaving your heirs to deal with it. So, life is hard sometimes and messy sometimes, but that doesn't mean it isn't worth sorting it out and trying to make it as simple as you can. So the importance of taking action. What do you do? Look at your current designations. I was looking at one for a 401k participant the other day and happened to notice that one of her beneficiaries had predeceased her. I just happened to know about the situation. So has something changed in your life that you maybe need to bring things up to date? Make the changes if needed. Name both a primary and contingent. I see this all the time. It's benefit enrollment season, you're filling things out, you're halfway through the process, it's time consuming. You get to beneficiary designations and you're like, whatever, I've got a spouse, I'm name them, I'll let them figure it out. Take the extra few minutes and think about it. Who do you want as your contingent? Is it a trust? Is it a charity? Is it whatever it is? But really take the time to fill out that next level. Confirm annually, or if there have been any major life changes. These often get overlooked too. Again, making sure you've got that transfer on death. which applies to brokerage accounts, so a Schwab, a Fidelity, a Vanguard, or whatever it might be, a taxable account that's not an IRA, or a payable on death, which are bank accounts. Having those things in place also means those assets transfer directly to your heirs and avoid probate. Keep things organized. We've got tools and resources here that can help if you need somewhere to get yourself organized. But whether it's digital, whether it's paper, whether it's both, get yourself organized so that, again, if God forbid something happens to you, your people are going to be grieving. They're going to be in a difficult situation anyway. So the more you can make this path easy for them to walk, they will be grateful to you in the end. And then finally, consult a professional if you need some help. Here at Accel, we're happy to help you if you've got a trusted attorney or advisor. But maybe make this a goal for the second half of 2025 here to get yourself organized and make sure all of those beneficiary designations are up to date. So designations are legally binding, often final, and they do deserve your attention. They're a powerful tool that should be integrated in your larger financial and estate plan. And set yourself a reminder, not minder, we've got a typo there, sorry about that. Set yourself a reminder today to review your beneficiary designations this month and maybe make that part of your summer ritual. Think of it as an pre-Independence Day ritual once a year. Those are my prepared remarks for today. We hope you do enjoy our financial roadmap series. The next one is coming up on July 16th, also at 11:30. And the topic is what you don't know, some common financial misconceptions.